Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at fractureme.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just one screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at fractureme.com.
It is the third and final hour of Justice and Drew for your Friday edition. Final hour for the week. We are off on Monday for Memorial Day, and I got to apologize. I've been reticent. I've been remiss in promoting that our good friend Tom Lyons in the Minnesota Military Radio Hour will be hosting the show for us on Memorial Day, 6 to 9 Monday morning live on Memorial Day. They've been doing this now. I think this is the 10th year, maybe 11th year that the Minnesota Military Radio crew has hosted the Memorial Day program on this station, and it's always wonderful. It's always worth going out of your way and listening to. They get an amazing lineup of guests, and all across the political spectrum. It's politics free on that day, and they just talk about how important the military is and the men and women that have made the sacrifices, to serve Minnesota, to serve the nation, and it's really worth listening to. So I'm looking forward to that Monday morning, 6 to 9. Minnesota Military Radio Hour hosting for Justice and Drew, and then we will be back, and John will be back from auditing the election in Arizona.
In Maricopa County.
To announce Trump's ascendancy to the presidency.
Yeah, I expect, now that John's on the case, I expect Trump to be sworn in Monday.
Yeah. It'll be the Memorial Day celebration we all
deserve, and that we've been waiting for. It'll be a new day. Trump will be sworn in as, our 16th president?
Oh, yeah, I think that's right. Yes.
Yeah, John's got it covered, man.
This is the true inauguration.
Joining us in the studio, though, on this Friday edition is our good friend, Howard Root.
Good morning.
A good friend of the show from Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, Rob Dorr.
Hello.
And we're pleased to be joined over the phone now by gubernatorial candidate Dr. Scott Jensen. Good morning, sir.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for calling in. What prompted the call? This is an unexpected guest here on the Justice and Drew program. What prompted your call in this morning?
Basically, my gubernatorial campaign, because I think we're just getting too deep into the weeds into politics, and I think there's so many critical issues for Minnesotans that we need to deal with these from a people perspective. I think we lose that, specifically the vaccine question. I've been in the news a little bit lately because I have said that I would like to see us press pause regarding vaccination of 12 to 15-year-olds.
Okay.
Partly because statistically, these kids have a 0% chance of dying of COVID-19. And I think that we've got the typical politics stuff going on, but I think for the everyday person that I see in the office, they want to know, what should I do? If we're going to have 12 to 15-year-olds available for vaccination, shouldn't I do it? Or if they have hesitation. And I think that it's unfortunate that we're not dealing with these issues from the people's perspective, because they want to do the right thing. They want to make the safe choice. They don't want to have downstream consequences that wouldn't necessarily be imagined. So I have to tell a lot of folks, I say, the NIH, the CDC, these organizations have, in many situations, not even received 60% of their employees being willing to take the vaccine. So I think there's a legitimate question out there.
When it comes to vaccinating children, and specifically you mentioned 12 to 15-year-olds, we're seeing more and more the approvals and the push to get kids vaccinated. You're seeing teachers' unions push to get kids vaccinated before they go back to class. I'm just going to play devil's advocate with this question. This is not indicative of my personal views, but I'm curious what your response is when somebody would say, well, the risks of a serious illness and certainly the risks of fatality when it comes to that age range are very, very, very small. So in that respect, I can understand why somebody might be hesitant to vaccinate someone in that age range. But what do you say to someone who says, but they can still spread it? They could still carry it, and they could still give it to a family member, a teacher, somebody who might be vulnerable, and that would be the argument in favor of vaccination for that age group. What would your response be to that?
Right now, more than 50% of the new cases of COVID-19 in many areas of the country are occurring in vaccinated people. So getting the vaccine doesn't stop that. We know that. The vaccine, really, the endpoints that they're focusing on are hospitalization and death. And in those situations, indeed, there is a reduction. So for me, I typically, in counseling my patients, I will tell them, well, you are over 70. You have multiple underlying problems. I think that it makes a lot of sense for you to seriously consider getting the vaccine, because the vaccine may well put you through your paces. You may have a pretty tough time, but the fact of the matter is, if you got COVID, you might well have a death rate potential of 1% to 2%, while the vaccine, even though there have been some deaths associated with the vaccine, according to VAERS and the CDC, the percentage would be far less. And those are the things I try to deal with people on a real basis. And that's why I was willing to press pause on the 12 to 15-year-olds, because I'm saying, well, those people have virtually no risk, and they were an excluded group in the original phase 1 and phase 2 trials. So I've never been able to get my hands on how many thousands of 12 to 15-year-olds were actually studied. How long were they studied? If we have, pubertal girls just starting their periods and their menses, were they studied for 3 or 4 months to make certain that there was no disruption or no physiologic intrusion into what their bodies normally do? But it really has to be a one-on-one conversation, I think, with patients.
I've seen you cast on social media and in some outlets as being anti-vax. And clearly, based on your answer just there, I think, for the record, that is a ridiculous characterization of you. I mean, you just said on this program that if you had a patient that met certain conditions, you would encourage them to get the vaccine for those very reasons. How do you combat that sort of narrative, though? I mean, you've been fighting this battle now for a while, as you've been one of the leading voices in Minnesota of calling out some of the really bad policies and bad plans of dealing with it, with a pandemic that we've seen here, and it has got you a lot of notoriety, and it's also got you a lot of attacks. How do you sort of combat that narrative of, Dr. Scott Jensen is a COVID denying anti-vaxxer?
I would say 3 things. First off, I spend over $100,000 a year to purchase vaccines in my clinic to provide for my patients. Second, my children have received all the required school-age vaccines throughout their lives, and my grandchildren pretty much have too, perhaps with a couple maybe being on a little bit of an elongated program. And the third is that probably 3/4 of my patients over the age of 70 in my own practice have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Again, it troubles me deeply that we seem to be such a reactive society, and we need to really let people process this. The inducements right now that are being made, this is one of the big concerns I have with the 12 to 15-year-old. You take a 12 or 13-year-old and give them the chance to get a vaccine. The shortcut response on their part might be, well, I'm going to get it so that I can play soccer this summer without a mask on, or so that I can go to camp without a mask on. I don't think this is how we want to be making decisions about sticking something in our body that is, if you will, not been approved.
Well, wait a second. So you're telling me that, you shouldn't get a vaccine just to get tickets to Nickelodeon Universe?
Well, I found...
Or a fishing license?
You can have free access to a dating app. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
So, going to the Duluth Aquarium shouldn't be your motivation for getting the vaccine?
No. Did you see the headline last week, I think, was where the Minnesota Zoo said that you're still going to need to wear your mask when you're at the zoo because they're trying to protect the animals. And I thought, that's a good one.
That's a new one.
Should apply to the legislature, too. You have to protect the animals there, don't you?
Yeah, let's vaccinate all the penguins.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Scott Jensen, it's good to hear from you, man. I appreciate you calling in. And as always, where can people learn more about you, your campaign, possibly decide to get involved or donate if they're so inclined?
drscottjensen.com. drscottjensen.com. Dr. Scott Jensen. It is. You might find it interesting. I did a video on vaccines yesterday for about 17 minutes. It's a little longer. We put it up, and I was notified this morning by YouTube that they took it down because it conflicts with some of the things that the World Health Organization said. my wife asked me about that, and I said, well, this is the same World Health Organization that told us that we didn't have to worry about where the virus originated. And they told, this was not in a lab. And then I think now there's been a little more discussion about that, because my understanding is that the president of our country has said that we're going to have to redouble our efforts to find out where the virus originated from. And he's put some of our intelligence agencies on the job.
I'm curious. Actually, I was going to let you go, but since you brought up the origin thing, I mean, where's your head at on this this COVID origin? And not necessarily the origin itself, but see the sort of political maneuvering that's happening in the Biden administration. On one day, we hear that the Trump era investigation emanating out of the Department of Justice, out of the State Department, if I remember correctly, had been terminated by the Biden administration. And then all of a sudden that gets a lot of attention. And then the next day the Biden announces, I want answers. I'm giving my intelligence officials 90 days to come up with an answer on where this COVID or originated from. How much credence do you personally give the lab leak theory? And do you think that this is something that we'll ever really even know the answer to?
Good question. I would say this. I think I was sort of taken in by the conventional narrative in terms of where the virus originated. I thought that this was a natural reassortment of a virus particle that would not have occurred in a lab, because that's really what we were being fed. A couple of months ago, when Robert Redfield, the former CDC director, came out and said that he's really had to rethink it, that made me really stop and pause. And now everything I read, I think that there's a very real likelihood that this may well have come out of a lab. There's typically a signature. When you engineer a virus, there's usually a signature with some of the proteins on the engineered virus. And if you see that, you can take it potentially to the bank that, there's been some manipulation going on. So we drive some mutations to occur. This virus does have some signature to it. And I think that's why people like Dr. Peter McCullough has come out and said, we really need to look at this. And I think that's why President Biden has also said, I'm getting enough of my staff telling me that this could be a real issue, that I think we do need to do the deep dive, because if indeed it came from the lab, this is critically important. One is, what kind of motivation occurred? Was it just an accident? Two, what are we doing to safeguard against this in the future? Three, did we really have American dollars going over there to help do this, if you will, engineering, this experimentation and research? These are critically important questions, and I appreciate President Biden saying we got to redouble our efforts, but he's a little bit late in the game, and I think I am too. I think that people could criticize me and say, well, Doc, you said that this didn't happen in a lab, and I did say that, and that was my opinion a year ago. But right now, I'd say that I'm starting to lean the direction that the president is, and I say I think we really need to redouble our efforts and try to figure out what's going on, because if it did indeed occur in a lab, we got to know why.
Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with changing your viewpoint and changing your perspective when new information comes to light. I mean, you would want every politician and every leader and everybody really to have the capacity of doing that. So, I'm not going to give you any grief on that front. I mean, obviously the more you learn, the more you know, and your stances and your opinions and your speculation will evolve accordingly. So, no worries on that front. But what bothers me is that we lost a year. I mean, we could have been a year ahead of finding out, the origins of this if the media and if the left in this country wasn't so knee-jerk anti-Trump that everything he said they had to declare it immediately false and dig their heels in on the opposite side without any sort of research or evidence or anything like that. It's just these words fell out of Trump's mouth, so there's no way they could possibly be true. And that's why, and so we've lost a year of being able to try to figure out where this thing came from and how it ended up infecting so many people. Dr. Jensen, thank you so much for calling in, man. Always a good conversation, and we'll chat again with you soon.
Thank you much.
Take care. That was unexpected and pleasant.
Yeah, a pleasant discussion about vaccines.
There's a story here real quick before we go to break, just a couple minutes out of Reason.com. After Rochelle Walensky, Senate Director of the CDC, was criticized for grossly exaggerating the risk of outdoor COVID-19 transmission, she said she was relying on a study published in, quote, one of our top infectious disease journals. And this is the director of the CDC saying this. But as noted a couple weeks ago, Walensky misrepresented that study, which was published by the Journal of Infectious Diseases in February, in several significant ways. And then just earlier this week, New York Times columnist David Leonhardt, who first called attention to Walensky's hyperbole, reports that the co-author of the study agrees that the CDC's director's gloss was misleading and possibly intentional. Walensky estimated that outdoor transmission accounted for less than 10% of COVID-19 cases, implying that its share is close to that number. Right, if you say less than 10%.
You think it's like 9.8.
Your mind goes to, well, it's probably right around 10%, just under, right? The abstract of the article she cited said that 5 identified studies found that a low proportion of reported global infections occurred outdoors, less than 10%. But the evidence described in the article is inconsistent with the idea that anything like 10% of infections happen outside. The author said the actual number is probably substantially less than 1%.
Well, that is less than 10%. Technically accurate. Yeah.
You're not wrong.
It qualifies, right. But boy, is that a significant difference in perception.
And if I recall, this is what Walz and the Minnesota Department of Health used to say that kids couldn't play sports.
Thank you. Yes.
Did I steal your thunder?
No, yeah, that's fine. No, I was going to make a similar point, but yes, that's exactly.
Well, yeah, great minds think alike.
This is why I have you on the show. All right, 651-989-5855. We got one segment left before the Friday news quiz, so get your predictions in now. Use the hashtag TCNT on Twitter or email them to jd@twincitiesnewstalk.com. Will be the lovely, talented, radiant Samantha Sansevier.
Yes.
The just as lovely, talented, and radiant Howard Root.
Yes.
And the tall Rob Dorr.
Thank you.
Find out shortly. Stick around.
Quick question. Do you know the difference between toilet paper and bath tissue? No? That's because it's 2 different names for exactly the same thing. But Fiora toilet paper is special because it's comfortable, affordable, and sustainable. 3 things you can't say about a lot of the bath tissues. And besides, nobody uses it in the bath, so why call it that? Comfortable, affordable, sustainable Fiora toilet paper. Smart feels good.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Welcome back to your Friday edition of Justice and Drew. My name is Drew, John Justice in Arizona, Maricopa County.
Maricopa County.
Sam is fond of saying.
I think it sounds so funny. Maricopa County. And I hate it. I mean, I just feel like I hear it all the time. I get people calling in. They're like, you going to talk about Maricopa County? And I'm like,
not only are we going to talk about it, we're going to send John there.
Yeah.
That's how dedicated we are to uncovering the truth behind the 2020 elections.
That's right.
So stop calling Sam, everybody.
Yeah, so leave me alone about it.
We're sending John there for a weekend.
There.
To fix everything. He'll be back on Tuesday with a new president.
You're welcome, America.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We don't get the credit we deserve.
Do you know any other radio show that would do anything like that?
You guys have really stepped up shadow running Minnesota, too.
We're not content with shadow running Minnesota. We want to shadow run Arizona, too.
Yeah.
And then we'll shadow run Florida. Well, Florida's doing fine.
We're going to shadow run all of America. No, we're going to shadow run all of America.
Let's shadow run Nevada after that. Unless I go to Vegas more often. Joining us in the studio for this Friday edition is friend of the show from the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, Rob Dorr.
Good morning.
And from Powderhorn Park, hard route.
Good morning, not from Powderhorn Park.
Fresh out of the Coleman four-person tent.
Accuracy has never been my forte.
No, that absolutely should be your motto right there. Not my deal.
We are going to play the Friday News Quiz, the triumphant return of the Friday News Quiz coming up in the next segment. So you still got some time to predict the winners, and you could get a $100 gift card to Twin Cities Cannabis. Before we do, real quick, story had a reason. I saw this one. I thought of you, Howard. It seemed like something that would be like right up your alley. The head of an urban policy nonprofit is suing Minnesota's engineering licensing board after they threatened him with fines and other sanctions for the egregious crime of calling himself an engineer.
Calling himself an engineer.
Yes, in speeches and in articles. But the problem was he gave those speeches and he wrote those articles while he had a temporarily expired engineering license.
Oh, my Lord. Throw him in prison for life.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just no punishment is too severe for this man who called himself an engineer with a temporarily expired engineering license.
So let's just get this straight. He called himself an engineer.
Yes.
He didn't go and bid on state contracts.
To the best of my knowledge.
Posing himself to be an engineer.
And he was an engineer, but he was temporarily hadn't paid the license.
Yeah, if you don't have a government license, are you really anything?
Right.
Do you even exist without a government license?
Let's guess what he was saying. Probably something against the government in that speech that he gave, or some position that the licensing board didn't like.
Well, let's take a little trip and find out.
Well, we'll find out right away.
You say Charles Marone is a licensed civil engineer since 2000 and president of the advocacy group Strong Towns. Strong Town. Fighting against those weak towns.
That's right.
A weak town advocacy group has gained too much ground.
Right.
He argues that the board is violating his First Amendment rights by policing his description of himself as a professional engineer in connection to his policy advocacy. So, yeah, I mean, you're on board. He's advocating policy.
Right.
And clearly, if he were advocating policy that Minnesota government liked,
right,
they would not be going after him in this fashion. But as we've seen with Dr. Scott Jensen, who was just on the program a little bit ago, you go out there and you say the wrong thing, this state government has shown that it will come after you and try to punish you and silence you if they don't like what you're saying.
Yeah, it's an amazing coincidence that they only go one way. It's always against the people that are not on the government side that get this used against them. And it doesn't even have to be legitimate. They can just make it up, bring the allegation, and while it's going on, the guy's life is upended.
Yep.
What would you know about that, Howard?
Exactly.
Yeah. Talk about something you know.
Right.
Like tents and beaches. The sanctions that he's being threatened with, he contends, are retaliation against Strong Towns activism, which is critical of spending more money on large infrastructure projects, typically beloved by professional engineers. The state's licensing board is, quote, making findings that I have been dishonest and misrepresented myself to the public, that I made false statements. These things are not only unfounded, they are just deeply, deeply damaging. I'm not practicing engineering. This board has no authority to regulate what my speech is and what I'm out saying.
And that's the part that really irks me. Is that he's not practicing engineering. He is not trying to benefit from the credibility of a license in order to deceive somebody.
Exactly.
He was a
That's
professional.
the whole point of licensing, right?
Right.
It's to protect the consumer by saying, well, if Rob Dorr has a license...
I'm a licensed EMT. It protects... If I go and under the guise of my EMT... go and provide medical care, and it turns out I didn't have a license and I hurt you?
Yes, I have recourse.
You have been harmed by me. I am not harmed by a guy calling himself an engineer during a speech.
I'm an engineer, everybody. I'm just declaring Drew Lee is now suddenly... I'm an engineer. Are they going to come after me?
Sam's a radio producing engineer.
Yeah.
Call herself that? Oh, she's not there. So
But he's showing the way to be done. I mean, the nice thing is he's taking the fight back to them. And when they do that, these people usually back down, like Dr. Jensen did when they went after his medical license. He went aggressive. And if you go aggressive, you win. If you go back and you apologize, you slinker away, you're going to lose.
Yeah, these government bureaucrat types, they're not used to people standing up and fighting back. They're used to people just, bowing down and bending the knee the minute somebody shows up at the door and says, I'm from the government.
Well, and like the Upper Midwest Law Center with the Baptist Church, suing the state, you're pushing back against it. That's where the courts are really where the government gets itself kicked. It's not through public campaigns and things like that, because there's more than enough people coming to their defense and to their aid to back them politically. But in the courts, when the only question is the rule of law and the letter of the law and its application, that's where the government can really be held accountable.
Yeah, the last thing they want in government is to have the spotlight shine on them. If they're attacking you, they want the spotlight on you. Yeah. And if you're going to win, you got to fight back. But while you're doing that, you got to make sure two things. One, you didn't do something bad. And two, that you got enough money to do the fight.
And that's the thing is how much justice can you afford?
Right.
And that's where the government succeeds in most instances.
Unlimited resources.
They have got unlimited resources to try to convince 12 people that you did something that you didn't do. And they'll in their everlasting benevolence will offer you a deal to say you did something you didn't do, just to save your fortunes, or save your house, or save your kids' college funds.
But there's no recourse or accountability for bureaucrats running amok.
Right.
And that's the real problem. Like, I can hold a politician accountable. I can not vote for him. I cannot donate to him. I can, there are steps I can take to withhold my support of an individual politician who may have done something that I disagree with or find egregious. But you got this engineering licensing board going out there and starting to police speech that they have no authority, no justification whatsoever to try to go out. Anybody can go out there and call themselves an engineer. If you're not defrauding somebody by false claims of being an engineer, if you're not trying to...
Yeah, if you're not engaging in any behavior that requires that license... then they have no say.
Business.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're there to protect the integrity of the license.
Yes.
This guy saying that he is an engineer does nothing to harm the integrity of an engineer's license.
I'm trying to find. I was looking at it just a moment ago, and I lost my spot in the story. Okay, so the fines that they are looking to get from him, specifically, the board is demanding that he pay a $1,500 fine. Just petty and mean. $1,500 fine, and sign an order admitting he'd violated Minnesota law by using the title of professional engineer in his writings and speeches while his license was expired.
Wow.
And then stand up in front of the class and write it on the chalkboard 100 times.
Right. I mean, it's gone absurd. And I guarantee you, the government will not have a person's name behind it. It'll be the department did this, and there'll be people who did that, but not one person within government who's responsible for that act. The anonymity of government action is what protects them beyond everything else.
Marone says that the primary concerns of the board were about his use of the term engineer in connection to his advocacy work, obviously, because he was advocating for things they didn't like.
Exactly.
And that's really what it boils down to. One member of the board, he says, expressed concern that his description of himself as an engineer in talks he gave at Google and TEDx talks might make people more likely to listen to his ideas.
Wow.
Thus endangering public health and safety.
Yeah.
Ideas can endanger public health and safety, and someone on an engineering licensing board feels like they are the arbiter. They are the ones to protect the public from hearing ideas that they might not like. Does that not describe so much of what the left is doing these days?
Yeah, they are our overlords, right? Yeah. They tell us what we can think, they tell us what we can say, and they tell us what we can read.
Who's approved to speak and who isn't, and who's allowed to tweet, and who's allowed to make YouTube videos, and who isn't.
And they can call Dr. Jill Biden doctor all they want.
And it's just fascinating that the only people who seem to be held accountable in doing that thing with my fingers... there you go, John. Is people who are being critical of the government. It's not in any sort of a guise to protect the public from being deceived. It's because they're saying bad things about the government.
Yep. No, not like when you use social media to, I don't know, recruit and radicalize terrorists. Like, we can't do anything about that. But if you use it to criticize the government, or if you use it to criticize big infrastructure spending and all these things, suddenly now, you're going to get the American government coming after you. I swear, if the FBI and the government spent half as much time they did, as they did trying to find, political malcontents, and as they would, actually going after terrorists and bad people.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty nice. You can hack and shut down an entire East Coast pipeline without the FBI having any awareness of what you're doing. But, God forbid you sell a medical device you're not supposed to.
Well, it's a lot more fun for prosecutors to go against guys like me, because we don't go after them physically. If they go against the mob, then they have to worry about their family and their houses. And that's where they get their promotions from, is going against business people or licensing boards, things like that.
That is the voice of Howard Root.
Good morning, people.
Joining him is Rob Dorr.
Yay.
Producing our show is Sam Sansevier.
You're
and
both
in the
going
next
down.
segment, these three, I'm going to throw them in a pit and see which one of them survives.
It'll be
I like
me.
my odds here.
Stick around. We'll play the Friday News Quiz coming up next.
Hi there. Have you ever heard of Fiora? Fiora is not a medication to treat your allergy symptoms. And Fiora is not a new hybrid SUV. Fiora is actually toilet paper, but it's a pretty good one. Fiora is soft, strong, and does all the toilet papery things you'd expect when you're using toilet paper. But it's made with only sustainably sourced trees. So, if you're looking for performance and sustainability in a toilet paper, try Fiora. Fiora. Smart. Feels good.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the name your price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Oh, my heart is already beating so fast.
It is time, the triumphant return of the Friday News Quiz on your Friday edition of Justice and Drew. Very excited to bring this back. 3 rounds in the Friday News Quiz. We've got our audio round. We will play you an audio clip. Your job as a contestant is to identify the person speaking, and when appropriate, context. Sometimes the context is obvious. You're not going to get a point for pointing out the obvious when it's right there in the answer.
What?
Yeah, you heard me.
Rude.
The second round, parody songs. I've got one parody song for each of you, and you can, if you can correctly identify the topic of the parody song, what news story specifically that is being referenced in the parody song, you will get a point. And then we do the headline round. I got 12 headlines with tons of blanks in them for you to fill out, and we will get a point each time. And the judges can award points at their discretion for any reason, and all judges' decisions are final and not up for debate, Sam.
Judges.
Yes.
So since I'm filling in for John.
No. I'm the judges. Okay. I'm all of the judges.
Filling the role of two-man today.
I am the 9th Circuit Court. I am the 10th Circuit Court. I am the 27th Circuit Court.
I was going to say, if you're the 9th Circuit, you're going to be overturned about 75% of the time.
Drew, you look beautiful today.
Oh,
thanks,
no.
Sam.
Sucking up is
It's
not
really
allowed.
nice. I know you're lying.
Minus 1 point.
I don't think we've ever done negative points. We've never taken a point away. Once a point is
what?
awarded, I don't think it can be taken back.
I for sure have had points taken away from me before.
That was not in the news quiz, though.
100%.
That was just in your job performance. All right, we'll start off with the audio round. Sam, you will go first. Who is speaking and who is he talking about?
But I don't know that the administration can investigate this, particularly since they've shut down the previous administration's investigation. So I'm worried that they're trying to cover up the government's involvement.
I can't remember.
Rob.
Yeah, Rob's going to get it.
Rob.
Go ahead.
That's Rand Paul.
That is correct. I had to find the right button.
And he's talking about the COVID cover-up, China being the original source.
Rob with an early 2-point lead,
That's fine.
stealing Sam's points.
I'm not even worried.
Rob,
Yes,
audio
sir.
clip number 2. Who is speaking?
We deserve a more comprehensive plan than simply adding more police or focusing on police reforms.
We deserve... Yeah, it's one of the Minneapolis City Council members.
Howard. Lisa Goodman? No.
Lisa Bender?
Bender.
Oh. Philippe Cunningham.
Oh.
You're on the right track. Rob, it was a council person. Philippe Cunningham at a North Side news conference with Jeremiah Ellison. Audio clip number 3. Howard, nobody's speaking in this one, so you just need to tell us the context of what is happening in this audio clip.
To be this bill of comprehensive police reform.
This is a gimme.
Oh my gosh. Why don't you just give it to him?
Some gunshots. Let's do that.
Old man handicap.
And just on cue is starting to Sam start whining again.
Just give it to him on a cute little shiny silver
So
platter.
that's the shots at George Floyd Square for the AP reporter there.
Yeah, it's very on the anniversary of George Floyd's death, in front of tons of live media coverage. What is it, 40-something gunshots started ringing out?
Drew, you disgust me.
That's not going to get you any bonus points.
You can't give me and Rob some obscure audio clips and then give him
Rand Paul is not obscure.
Yeah, right.
He is obscure.
Rand Paul is not obscure. Now,
you about to get some calls, girl.
Yeah. And you're also complaining too early, because this audio clip that I'm about to play for you, Sam, is the one you should really be complaining about. But I'm going to give you a hint. I'm going to give you a hint because I know this one is going to be, the degree of difficulty on this one is exceptionally high. The person speaking, that's all you need to do is identify the person speaking. He says his name in this clip. You ready?
No.
你好，中国，就是叫西娜。我必须说，现在在速度与激情中，我做很多采访。
What? Is that Xi? I don't know.
Anybody want to chime in and steal? I thought somebody would. I thought somebody would know this one.
Kim Jong-un?
No, it is WWE superstar and action figure hero John Cena.
Oh, I knew that.
John Cena made a lot of
context. I know the context because he called Taiwan not a country.
No,
he called it a country.
He called Taiwan a country, and then he apologized about it later.
You know what? I'm going to give Sam a point on that one.
Implies that
because I know the degree of difficulty on that one. I know is extremely high, but you got the context. I would give you a point. But yeah, that was super patriotic John Cena, WWE hero, and an action star trying to be the next Dwayne The Rock Johnson, apologizing to the Communist Party of China.
Yep.
For calling Taiwan a country. Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
Audio clip number 5. This one's for you, Rob.
We've got community patrols that are going to be out on many of the intersections that several of the reverends and bishops are helping to organize. I'm going to take a shift myself out on one of these corners.
I bet you are.
Do they have a zip line?
I guess Sam knows who it is.
It's Mom Jean's Jacob Fry.
That's correct.
That is Mayor Mom Jeans.
Mayor. You want to give him recognize his title?
But actually, Man Baby Mayor Mom Jeans. All right, get it right.
Or as my daughter calls him, Side Eyes Jacob Fry, because he while we were at the Capitol was giving her the side eye from the audience, wondering why is this girl here for an uncomfortably long period of time.
Weird.
All right, final audio clip.
Okay.
Howard Root, this one's for you.
Whether that is a pass to Nickelodeon Universe, to Valley Fair, Northwoods baseball games, the aquarium up in Duluth.
Oh, sure. I get John Cena speaking Chinese.
I believe it's Howard's turn.
It's Mandarin, by the way.
That's Tim Wallace talking about the vaccine incentives being given away.
Very good.
Tough one. Very tough, Drew.
I try to dole out the degree of difficulty in an appropriate fashion based on.
I'll give you a degree of difficulty.
Yeah, you give me one every morning.
Here's the roll on for you.
Almost got it. All right, round 2. At the end of round 1, Rob Dorr with 3 points, Howard Root with 2 points, Sam with 1 point. It is anybody's game. As we all know, this game is won and lost in the headline round. I've got 3 parody songs, all referencing news stories that we did talk about on the show this week. So that
I probably won't
there should be some commonality here for all 3 of these parody songs, but they are a little bit obscure. We'll start with yours. What story is being referenced in this admittedly stupid parody song.
Now tell me why would I ever feel that I would ever need to conceal? I'm not trying to be rude, but makeup is just not for dudes.
This is about A-Rod's new makeup brand. I kind of dig it. Good for him.
Alex Rodriguez clearly getting over the J-Lo breakup.
Really well.
Fine. Well, and launching his own makeup brand.
It's even sadder when you look deeper into it. It's actually like a business deal that they signed while they were still together. So they're actually doing it.
So he's like just doing contractually obligated.
It's called it's called Hims and Hers. She's the hers and he's the hims.
Oh, that would have been I would have just gone with a different brand.
Rob Dorr, parody song number 2.
Who can take a cicada and turn them into something sweet? Even though they're gross and not something you'd want to eat. The Candyman. Yes, the Candyman can. But just because the Candyman can dip these nasty things in chocolate doesn't mean he should. No, they're gross.
Yeah, that's one of the myriad of places turning cicadas into candy. I think the story we had was from New England.
There you go. You got the New England detail right. Wow. That is correct. Yes, a Maryland candy shop selling chocolate-covered cicadas. Howard, would you try one of those?
No, I'm not hungry.
Rob?
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll try anything once.
Same here. I didn't get to be this fat by not trying. Doesn't work that way. Howard Root, parody song number 3.
Don't like that time, baby. Don't be a paranoid clown. Don't wipe that down.
That's all you get. That's all you get. It ends there.
Don't wipe it down.
That's it.
Don't wipe down. Well, I would guess it's the CDC saying that the requirements on wiping down was exaggerated.
Yes, and they're no longer in all these this pandemic theater of wiping everything down incessantly. No longer necessary. The virus does not transmit itself on surfaces.
1 point for the parody squad. The crews that put them together. Those are some rock on songs.
Yeah, those are really good.
You're not a
parodies.
judge, but you know what? I'll go ahead and mark it.
I swear.
They're not even competing, Sam.
I'll give one of Sam's points too.
Yes, Howard and I decided by majority rule that one of Sam's points should go to.
All right, we got to move. We got to move here. We are running out of time. Rob has 4 points. Howard, you have 3. Sam, you have 2. We're going to move into the headline round. Buzz in with your name when you think you know what the blank may be. Real quick. 12 headlines. Number 1: Ramsey County Sheriff says if there is no Howard.
Bob Fletcher.
No, Sam.
Sam.
If there's no safety plan, there will be no safe air.
That is correct. Headline number 2: blank leading prosecution in
Rob. Attorney General.
Sam.
Leading prosecution in the Dante Wright shooting for Kim Potter.
Didn't even name him.
It's all right. He got it.
His name is Keith Ellison.
Oh, really? Didn't know that.
Yeah. No, not according to my sheet because I spelled it wrong. Headline number 3: officials guarding blank.
Rob. George Floyd squared.
Officials guarding blank admit to falsifying.
Sam. Jeremy Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Oh my gosh, my brain is like...
I don't know who Jeremy Epstein is, but Jeffrey Epstein is the right answer. Headline number 4: Facebook reverses ban. Sam.
Posts about... Oh my gosh. The COVID...
Rob.
No, about posts about the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic.
That's what we were looking for. Headline number 5: Las Vegas strip club hosting pop-up blank.
Rob. Vaccination clinic.
Howard, you got to get
I know.
quicker here with the buzz in. Headline number 6: study shows that airport dog
can detect COVID.
Oh, man.
She is on her game today. Headline number 7: Metro Transit says blank will end on buses and trains this week.
Mask mandate.
Metro Transit says blank will end on buses and trains this week.
Sam, capacity restrictions?
Good job. Headline number 8: Georgia County asks residents to stop calling 911.
Rob, cicada noises. Reaching over 120 decibels.
We are tied. 7 points, Sam. 7 points, Rob. Howard, you are
way behind.
Yeah, you are batting 0 in the headline round. Headline number 9: blank makes deal to buy blank for $8.4 billion.
Howard.
Oh,
Amazon to buy MGM.
Yeah, 2 points, Howard. Making
Stealing
a late
points from Rob,
comeback.
yeah.
Headline number 10. Auto company blank may have produced the most expensive new car in history.
Sam? Tesla?
Howard. Ferrari?
I'll go with
pick one.
Yeah, Lexus.
Rolls Royce.
That would have been my next guess.
Rolls Royce, and the thing is amazing. And it's supposed to sell for like $15 million.
What?
Headline number 10.
Only Howard could buy that.
Headline number 11. Last one. During the Friends reunion, blank.
Sam. They
You don't even know what the context is.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Ross and Rachel said that. Not Ross and Rachel, but you know who I'm talking about. Said that they had feelings for each other. They had a major crush.
She actually got it right. And with that, Sam is the winner. Pulling ahead there with a last-minute 10-point win, beating Rob by 2 points. Good job, everybody. Rob, Howard, it was a real pleasure to have you on the Friday Roundtable. Seriously, it was a lot of fun. I'm really glad to have you guys in. Glad to have you guys back. We will do this again every Friday going forward. We'll have the roundtable in. We'll do the Friday news quiz. And whoever correctly predicted Sam will be entered into a drawing for our $100 gift certificate to Twin Cities Cannabis. Have a great weekend, everybody. We're back Tuesday.
Would you call yourself smart? What kind? Book smart? Street smart? Or how about toilet paper smart? You could be if you switch to Fiora. Fiora toilet paper is strong and soft, all for a great price. And Fiora is sustainably sourced. So being toilet paper smart means you're planet smart too. Way to go, Smarty McSmart Pants! Comfortable, affordable, sustainable Fiora. Smart feels good.